I have faith that the Constitution will be saved as prophesied by Joseph Smith. But it will not be saved in Washington.
We do not say that all of the saints will be spared and saved from the coming day of desolation, from the atomic holocausts that surely shall be.
They go to the temple along with our 11-year-old young women.
She would be a second wife. She asked this question: would she be able to have her own house? Or would she have to live with her husband and his first wife? I just told her to trust the Lord.
Travis Wayne Goodsell. So, follow-up from early this morning's video. AI overview. Is it G or N, Google? Oh, it's N? So it's, so it's not AI? God. Yes. Doctrine and Covenants 103 verse 16 is directly referring to and acting as a latter-day fulfillment application of the prophecy in Deuteronomy 18 verse 15. Both scriptures deal with the Lord raising up a leader or prophet like unto Moses to lead his people out of bondage. A future prophet like Moses. Future. Joseph Smith quotes from it, referring to the Acts version, but quotes from the Book of Mormon version. Verse 40 of the second vision. He said that that prophet was Christ, but the day had not yet come. The great and abominable Roman Emperor Constantine in 325 CE created Christianity, created Jesus Christ, and destroyed science and knowledge and truth, sending the world into the Dark Ages with his simple words from the first creed of Christianity, turning all scripture, not just those of the Jews, into literal histories, and thus revising history. Joseph Smith, in his first vision, did not have Jesus Christ in the name of his church. As in verse 19, he rips that first creed of Christianity to shreds. It is all wrong. It is all abominable. It is all corrupt. Meaning Jesus Christ is all wrong, all abominable, all corrupt. That's why Jesus Christ was not the name of his church. That is why Jesus Christ did not appear to Joseph Smith in his vision. The Book of Mormon starts off telling us it is the pre-Babylonian captivity Jewish Egyptians. And remember, it's not literal history. That is the abomination of Constantine. And so throughout the Book of Mormon, you have these people who follow the Great Spirit. Trinity Jesus. Not real. Who replace the Jews. Who replace their synagogues with their Christian worship of the Great Spirit. Who refuse to study their scriptures and believe in the Great Spirit. Who become pure evil with darkened minds and hearts. In my description yesterday, with the MSN article that I found, I included before I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew as a paleographer. I deciphered Paleo-Hebrew, Paleo-Greek, Greek and Aramaic scripts and vocabulary. Because that's what it does. That's what I did. So, the Modern Engineering Marvels by Charles Mitchell did an article, Dead Sea Scrolls Rewrote Biblical History. This is for engineering. And so he starts off with, but what has a jar in a desert cave to do with machine learning? He doesn't know the subject matter. The Dead Sea Scrolls didn't rewrite the Bible history because it's not literal history. 1701 years later, over 4 billion people around the whole world still are brainwashed and indoctrinated into his evil. The Daniel chapter 2, iron of Rome feet mingled with Christian clay that shattered. And despite its shattering, over 4 billion people on the earth today still believe it's true. just with the myriad interpretations of it, shattered. So that's why Joseph Smith says they got the same Bible and everybody has a different interpretation of it. Nobody is able to agree on one correct interpretation. That of the authors, who were Jews. So he adds to his title, did AI just push them further back? As I exposed earlier this morning, AI is a fraud. Google AI confirmed it. The AI that we all think when people say AI is how they're technically calling it general AI. That is the Terminator of Skynet, the independent intelligence, and it doesn't exist. Instead, what they have is a regurgitation program. It is only as intelligent as the programmers who put in the information for it to regurgitate. And this is why the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints made their name change to dominate the search engines and social media sites, to rewrite church history, to control the narrative with their interpretation of a Christian Book of Mormon and Joseph Smith. Replacing the Jewishness of them both. And so the article, in case you're curious, is mingling the Christianized corruption of the Dead Sea Scrolls and how AI is saying, no, it's not as old as you're claiming. Travis was right the whole time, and he's not an AI. He refused to memorize as a child. And so he learned associative memory, taught it to himself as a kid. I am the intelligence. This crap being forced upon everybody is the fraud. Done on purpose to cause Armageddon. So, this was the big bombshell again from yesterday rather than the previous night. Likewise, screwed up my sleep. Alma chapter 1, verse 12. This is the first time that priestcraft has been introduced among this people. And if you don't know what priestcraft is, you've never read 2 Nephi chapter 26, that defines priestcraft and says the Lord forbids it. Stay away from section 119 if you want to keep your faith bubble. Behold, thou art not only guilty of priestcraft, but hast endeavored to enforce it with violence, threats, and murder, crime. and were priestcraft to be enforced among this people, it would prove their entire destruction. This is the whole point and purpose of the Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith, in his second vision, after ripping to shreds Christianity, after exposing, because they fell into Joseph's trap, putting Jesus in the name of his church, thinking that they were going to cover it all up and prove that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is true, and the true authorized successors of the succession crisis, adds to Malachi of the day that shall burn as an oven. As Christians have replaced that to say Jesus is coming to burn people. His second coming, flaming glory. And so they added the rapture so that the righteous could be saved from it. And the rest are burned as wicked. Joseph Smith corrects this abomination with the addition of they. The first vision, specifically verse 1, who were Joseph Smith's own missionaries, who were lying to people about the Book of Mormon and his church and him as the founder, calling them all Christian, which led to the condemnation of the church, section 84, calling them apostates in section 86, causing the Kirtland apostasy in 1837, and leading to the Mormon War in Missouri in 1838, framing and blaming Joseph. Those people, they shall come. That's a future. This is a prophecy that Joseph Smith is giving for the latter days. Those evil, disposed, and designing militant Mormons will come in the future for the latter days to burn the world for Armageddon and frame and blame Jesus Christ, who is abominable. So, 3rd Nephi, chapter 7, is their whole plot. So what led up to it? Thomas B. Marsh, a true Mormon, despite being lied to by these other Mormons, framing and blaming Joseph. His affidavit exposes not only that they would go on to lie about him and his excommunication, which never happened. He left. He was never excommunicated. And so if the story of him coming to Utah groveling and speaking in conference is true, and getting rebaptized so that he can have a place to die, where he says, if there are any apostates among you, prepare your backs for a good whipping. Why did he get rebaptized if he was never excommunicated? Because it's not Joseph's church that he was getting rebaptized in. If it has any validity in it. Everything he mentions all directly expose what these Danites under Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball would forge as sections in the Doctrine and Covenants, except for section 119, which Brigham Young immediately put in his first edition of his Doctrine and Covenants, stealing Joseph Smith's. So yes, originally, Brigham Young had monogamy. He didn't replace that one. Yet, he also, with section 119, contradicting 2 Nephi 26, also contradicted Joseph Smith's section 42. Section 120 was not put in because it was after the 1835 edition. That is what Joseph Smith is referring to as section 42 for section 120, not section 119, which Brigham Young added with forged documents the year before he died, from the journal that they forged to justify what they did in 1838, confirming that the affidavit of Thomas B. Marsh is true. And so clearly they never read the affidavit. It went straight to the governor, and the governor signed the execution order, and the Mormons went to war as part of their plot. That was their whole plan for the Mormon War, to cause it. And the governor indulged them. And innocent Mormons were slaughtered because of these Danites who created the conditions to cause the problem, so that Joseph Smith could be framed and blamed for it, for Brigham Young to take over. Section 115, forged document. Section 116, forged document. Section 117, forged document. And there's where Thomas B. Marsh inadvertently, with them confirming with Section 117's forged document, that they are the Jeffrey Epstein creators. The Nicolaitan band from Revelation chapter 2. Section 118 is a forged document. Section 119 is a forged document. Section 124 and 128 is a forged document. The creation of baptisms for the dead and temple work for the dead by proxy. And they implemented it. In January into February of 1846, secretly done in the Nauvoo Temple, undedicated. To have Joseph Smith, who was dead and buried, sealed by proxy to all those women that you all believe is true. And John D. Lee, the slaughterer of women and children, was the clerk. And Senator Lee, you can't figure out that all of the bills that he recommends are abominable and would destroy America? Because that's their whole plot that they exposed. We, the Danites, are seeking to cause a civil war here in Missouri. We, the Danites, plan to take over the United States of America and ultimately the whole world. And surely we will do it. Because we are the Danites. So that journal entry confirms the affidavit. Around 1876, when this was actually written, because that's when the scriptures created here were put in Brigham Young's Doctrine and Covenants, claiming that it's in July 1838. Thus far, according to the order of the Danites, it's not even the order of Jesus. It's some god named Dan, the judge god. We have a company of Danites in these times to put to rights physically, priestcraft enforced, that which is not right by their interpretation, to cleanse Joseph Smith's church. You're not the head of the church, and you're using your interpretation to cleanse Joseph Smith's church. You're cooing it. Of very great evils which have hitherto existed among us. The Kirtland apostasy, where your converts believed that the church was Christian, and when they were gathered in similitude of the latter-day gathering, they were horrified that they were conned by you. Because Joseph Smith ain't Christian, the Book of Mormon ain't Christian, Latter-day Saints are not the name of Jesus, not Christian, Temple, not Christian. In so much as they cannot be put to rights by teachings and persuasions. But you never use the Book of Mormon to teach or persuade anybody. You're using your interpretation. This company came up to consecrate by companies of 10, commanded by their captain over 10. Militant persons, evil disposed and designing militant Mormons who are coming to cause Armageddon. I have exposed it all. So, before October Conference 2021, after the 2020 and 2021 test run. I am left wondering what happened. Why didn't America fall? Remember, I did a video this morning. Fox 13 News Utah on the 4th of November 2016 reported of the coming of the total solar eclipse over the United States of America. I knew that it was the sign for the latter days, that the United States of America was going to fall, that Benson's words, the Constitution will not be saved in Washington, was gonna be true. But there was that lingering myth of the council in Adam Ondai Amen. Remember? 116 is a forged document. And so 2020 came as I knew. Creeping death, suing in Pharaoh's court. Pharaoh saying, "No, I will not let Mormons go." Parting of the waters at the Green River overpass. I was awesome. And nothing. January 6th, the attempted coup of the government. And it failed. What's going on? I don't understand. We'll do that first. November 2024. It got leaked. Oaks got leaked. March 14th, 2020. To the brand new mission presidents. Exclusive information no general Mormon is to know about. He even did a video where he says he doesn't even believe that any of the new mission presidents would remember his words. That nobody would leak this. And he was so arrogant and proud that he could taunt and tease these stupid Mormons starting off on their missions as presidents. That he used chiasmus, which is a memory device in linguistics. And sure enough, it almost worked. Except for President Marquis, whom that word stuck in his brain, and he wrote it down and typed it in his email to all the stake presidents and parents of the missionaries in his brand new mission in Australia. And little sister Jessica, brand new at 19 years of age, because Monson lowered the age. The odds of this happening are astronomically severe. That your bets for the Super Bowl Sunday are nowhere near the winnings you would have gotten if you called out this to happen. She took that letter and posted it on her mission website. No other missionary did. Just Sister Jessica. And 4 years later, a Mormon woman who does YouTube videos found it and sent it on to another Mormon guy who does YouTube videos. And Max C. down in Utah County thought he'd put me in my place and recommend that video for me. Thank you, Max C. Wow, you really are hot. Why are you so mean to me? What are they teaching you down there in Utah County? What did they promise you? Or was it just a threat? Like they did to my brother. This is not the end of the world, but merely a test. A trial run for the second coming. The Danites, confirmed of their evil by President Dallin Harris Oaks, that everything that happened in 2020 and 2021 was caused by this church. That was all part of their plot from way back 200 years ago. And they are now instead running a test run? That was all a test run? I parted the waters and it was a test run? Did I part the waters for this? And so, before October conference in September, the news leaked, the leak of the Southern Poverty Law Center of the secret combination to overthrow the United States of America's membership list. YouTube, under Biden's authority, banned videos that they disapproved of. And Max C. was ordered by the church to ban my video content to protect the church. And so I was on probation. Still not able to post videos. The probation was still implemented, but I didn't know if I was now allowed to upload videos again. Because they had attacked me on both channels that I was forced to use because of the evil that the church used Biden for, to censor my voice to warn and save Mormons specifically, but all mankind who would listen. As my July 2017 video would be the highest and the last time I'd ever get that high video. I was destined to be the social media influencer of all social media influencers, and the church panicked and attacked to cover all this up. That Council for National Policy, I would go through and find out, yep, the 2016 presidential election was rigged, and these were the people that were involved in the rigging of it. Oh, look, that guy was the lawyer for Trump in his impeachment hearing. Oh, look, that guy was hooking up SCOTUS with billionaires to rig their rulings. The founder of this secret combination was the guy involved in the creation of the Left Behind series about Armageddon for Christians, evangelicals specifically. They that come shall burn them and frame and blame Jesus. It's all about the takeover of the United States of America by Christians to destroy the world and say it was Jesus. And lo and behold, part of the first membership group was W. Cleon Skousen, nicknamed Klingon Skousen, for his space doctrine. He is way out there. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, despite Oakes's hatred of him, was assigned to be a part of that council, to cause Armageddon, to overthrow the government of the United States of America. And in the 2014 membership directory, he was dead, and there was his firstborn birthright blessing son, Mark. In that council to overthrow the government of the United States of America. Then I did my conference videos because I found out with the test for that video that I did, exposing the Skousens as part of it, the YouTube allowed me back on to post videos. So I did my conference videos, and obviously it was late, and obviously I didn't get as many views. They are succeeding in shutting me up. Then after that conference, I found it, the source for the myth of Adam on Diamonds Priesthood Council. And it was a bombshell. Listen up. Joseph Fielding Smith Sr., The Way to Perfection. Gathering at Adam-on-Diamond, page 291. And you can go back to 290 as well, because he's got other talks put in that confirm this. By voice of the priesthood. This council in the valley of Adam-on-Diamond is to be of the greatest importance to this world. At that time, there will be a transfer of government authority from the usurper and impostor Lucifer to the rightful king Jesus Christ. Judgment will be set. Our Lord will then assume the reins of government. The whole plot that they openly confessed to Thomas B. Marsh that they are going to do this was then encoded with Christianity, so that Christian Mormons would never know. When this gathering is held, the world will not know of it. The members of the church at large will not know of it. Yet it shall be preparatory to the coming in the clouds of glory of our Savior Jesus Christ. The world cannot know of it. The saints cannot know of it except for those who officially shall be called into this council. For it shall precede the coming of Jesus Christ as a thief in the night, unbeknown to all the world. And the church reacted and responded immediately. And to make a long story short, here I am in this apartment. Nothing says innocence like guilt. And so in 2024, for Oaks to have gotten leaked, oops. This is why the general membership only know bits and pieces and don't put it all together so that they can live in denial land. With the news of the Epstein files directly tied to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I now see the bigger picture. In this context. And there are some others who have caught on, but they still aren't catching on. Jasmine, who's doing videos on YouTube. She got the information, dismissed it. She was the one who actually did the research, for which I'm impressed with. Good for you, girl. That the email of Epstein about meeting with the Mormon president, talking about a congressional hearing, was the congressional hearing in 1998 that discussed cold fusion. And this is where she went awry. Not understanding how Epstein's involved, because she couldn't find that Epstein was in attendance, but acknowledged that his typing on a computer sucks. Because I don't think they had cell phones back in those days tied to the internet. Not in 89, or not in 99, or not in 2009. Unless the rich had exclusive stuff to have at their disposal, which may be possible, because when we get a new rollout of anything from the tech industry, it's already obsolete for them because of the processing, the manufacturing, the rollout from the original design, the beta version. So, for example, the church's scripture program on the CD-ROM was already obsolete when they rolled it out. I was given the beta version in 2000 of the scripture program that would eventually come out with Hebrew and Greek for both the Old Testament and the New Testament, as the students at BYU were the ones who did it, and then the professors took all the credit for it. I know very well that practice, because at the University of Lethbridge, my professor, who I was taking Greek for my final term, in that summer term, before I would then graduate and go on to Utah. At the end of class, he came to me and said, I'm working on a CD-ROM for my book on mastering Greek, Thomas A. Robinson, I believe. And it's still available on Amazon, with the one for the CD-ROM even. He asked me to make that, but I said, I just graduated, I'm heading off to some unknown state in the United States called Utah. And so he was disappointed, because he didn't know anybody else he could trust. And so I recommended to him, as I recognized his loss of countenance, John Penny, who had also taken the class. And he was a fellow Mormon whom I trusted with his wife, for which my wife at the time didn't trust. She chose to hang out with husband haters. The leader of the gang went on to murder her husband by having him commit suicide at the hospital. And the cops, or the Mounties, let her go, because they accused him falsely of being mentally retarded. He was not mentally retarded. He was abused by his wife to the point where he couldn't take it anymore. And they just let her get away with it. It's just pure evil. And she sucked my wife into their evil. And so, yeah, she wanted out and abused me too in like manner to try to get me to commit suicide or to leave her. I forced her to leave me. An evil whore. Nonetheless, that's another issue. But the teachings of the church are emulated by Mormons. So, yeah, I think that's what he did, because I think John Penny either confirmed that he was a part of that or told him that he wasn't able to do it and recommended somebody else. But he got it done, and it's published, and it's available on Amazon. So, yeah. That's some background exclusive information for you, whether you like it or not. So, yeah. The American experiment. I brought it out in a video the other day, maybe yesterday. Britain, France, Spain are all competing to obtain the land of the new America that Columbus found the Caribbean. The Vikings had already been here long ago, and they brought over the Knights Templar for the coming forth of the Book of Mormon. And so you get these colonists, the 13 colonies for the Knights Templar. And yeah, there are those in leadership, those of the rich elite, who want to be independent of Great Britain's rule, King George. And there are those who are deists, not Christian, and they are in Freemasonry, which is all about the Holy Grail secret to restore the throne of King David in the new Jerusalem. They saw America as this location, and for very good reason. Scientists were emerging by restoring the Greek documents of astronomy from the dark ages of Constantine. Covered it all up and hid it and called it abominable. Falsely accusing what you were guilty of. Beam and mode. And so they know the calendar date and clock time, the day and the hour, of the coming of the Christ from Revelation chapter 12. And thus the Knights Templar came to America thanks to the Vikings, went and met with the Mandan Indian tribe of the Dakota region, carved the Kensington stone for 1363 as the date, and then came to southern Illinois, where X marks the spot, and buried Egyptian gold plates in the caves. Anybody know your Mormon history? of 1838's visions, second vision, as that sun people of the sun god with the sun king at the sun city at that location, who were offering up human sacrifices on an altar. Was it a lion couch? At that location, right up above it, just disappeared after the purchase of the land, as there are markers that had been made. They knew. And so these colonists, who were leaders, came to America knowing of this. To make America the new Jerusalem, for which the Revolutionary War, having declared independence, was for the creation of a brand new legal system that had never been used on the face of the earth. A Constitution of the United States of America that gives agency of life, liberty, and property for the gathering of mankind from all over the world to meld as one people in the New Jerusalem. To prepare the United States of America for the coming of the Jewish Christ. If you cry during a patriotic song being sung, add that to your memory the next time it's sung. Because the enemy that was formed on the 1st of May, 1776, came to America to destroy it. And in the War of 1812, where Canada burned down the White House, dumbass Trump. William Morgan had obtained the plot of this organization to overthrow the American experiment, destroy it, and coup it, and replace it. To be the enemy, to use Christianity to destroy America and frame and blame Jesus, to destroy Christianity. Albert Pike's letter to Giuseppe Mazzini. So William Morgan, learning of this whole plot, in amazing graphic detail. Moved to Western New York. Got a home at the Batavian Press, or in Batavia, being funded by the Batavian Press to work on this book. And so he has to go and find a place away from his family to protect them to work on this book. And he finds an out-of-the-way lodge in Canandaigua, New York, Ontario number 23, where the master mason of that lodge temple was Joseph Smith Sr., where Junior would attend his meetings as often as occasion would permit, because Hiram was a member in Palmyra. The rules were different for Freemasonry before 9/11/1826. The year before, Joseph Smith got the Egyptian gold plates out of the ground by the angel Nephi, not Moroni. Remember? Willard Richards, the one who put in Jesus and changed it to Moroni. Joseph knows what he's talking about. Don't touch him. Because that's his new name in the Temple of Angels. Now, Joseph didn't have the new names that Brigham did. Brigham who did the new name thing. By incorporating Freemasonry into his temple, Joseph's temple, destroying it, like the Greeks did to the Jerusalem temple, with the practicing of porn, prostituting women in the temple, pay tithing to get married and have sex. Only a Mormon girl that we are pimping out. Remember those Epstein files again? Remember the Nicolaiten band? Section 132 is a forged document. In case I forgot to list that. And so they're working on the book, and oops, the enemy found out. Heber C. Kimball, under Masonry, he knows all about it. He's the enemy. Everything there, as you can see for yourself, he knows that they were working on the book to warn America. The book that would be published by William Morgan, which obviously wasn't, was by Joseph Smith Sr. He wrote it. It's exactly 116 printed pages. Get rid of all the excess stuff. 116 pages. Huh. Because that's how many pages they had gotten to at 9/11/1826, when that scandal emerged. Joseph Smith Sr. is the American patriot saving America that year, because they were infiltrating the Scottish Rites Freemasonry to rise up in number, rise up in rank, take over leadership, destroy, coup, and rise up with a new world order. That was their pattern. every organization, they were building up to take over the United States of America and have the law passed for the construction of the street map of D.C. to have the inverted pentagram pointing directly to the White House. They got burned down by Canada. After the Confederate War. Because Brigham Young was able to get Joseph Smith assassinated instead of him running for president and becoming president and then murdering him as president and then taking over America with martial law and his Council of 50. Forged documents, by the way. Yep, the Book of Mormon is that very book to warn America and ultimately the entire world of the Danite threat of the Illuminati. After 9/11, there were a bunch of people who moved down to the south to become the Confederates. Yeah, the Confederate flag? Oh, look! It's the map to their coup. Oh, it's a cross burning with inverted pentagrams, huh? Just like Brigham Young put on the Nauvoo Temple and had dedicated on the anniversary of the Illuminati, May 1st, for which the new headquarters of his risen from the ashes empire that was taken over by the United States of America the very next year because Mexico seceded, would have the inverted pentagram of Lucifer on the keystones of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple headquarters. And then Don Carlos Jr. would carve the Eagle Gate. And where does that inverted pentagram point to, just like the street map of D.C.? The Capitol building where the governor resides for his offices, not just the legislature. The enemy of all mankind. And so you'd think that I would tremble in fear about how evil and powerful they are. That I would shut the hell up and leave the church alone. Look at what they've done to you, Travis, because of your actions. You're to blame, Travis. All you had to do was shut up. You swore a temple blood oath covenant to shut the hell up. At the Temple of Angels, nonetheless. May 6th, 1989. Oh, new name Nephi, huh? That's a coincidence. I was born and raised among white supremacist Christian nationalists. I know exactly how to handle you punks. So last year, Nelson, I had a bread dream. You need to fear and tremble. Nelson, I had a flood dream. You need to fear and tremble. Nelson, I had a cookie dream. You need to fear and tremble. And boom! On the very day, on the very minute, I called it. Bye-bye, Nelson. Another one bites the dust for the curse of Emmanuel. And Oaks, remember, you're next. And this is the season, because it's also part of the curse of Joseph Smith. I am the man like Moses. I am the seer. I am the prophet. I am the revelator. I am the translator. And I've got the gifts and powers to back it up. What do you got, Oaks? Nothing. You've got revisionist history, hate, and abuse, directly tied to the enemy threat to all mankind. And yeah, Isaiah's prophecy of Lucifer himself. Are you sure Lucifer is going to hand over the keys of government to the rightful king? Or are we going to be having a Deuteronomy 19:19 experience? You are unfit, Oaks. Hand it over now, so that I can at least save as many as who will believe. So that we can create the new human race after your Armageddon that you've paid the Judas price for. Rather than the rich elite raping little girls to create the new master race after Armageddon. And you never will you? You'll go to your grave before you hand it over as your betraying great uncle to Joseph Smith, the evil man who stole the 116 pages because he was a part of the enemy threat. Technically, it was the naive, gullible ones who formed the anti-Mason committee in Palmyra. He was on that committee. And so his theft of it was his concern about whether or not it was anything to do with the 9/11/1826 incident. And that's why they had to wait for a whole year afterwards to start that, is so that there's some distance. And so after the theft, again, distance, a whole year. In the same pattern. They needed to make sure that it's safe to bring forth the Book of Mormon. Joseph Smith had nothing to do with composition. He was the babysitter because Martin Harris insisted on being a part of it. And so, that whole year, Joseph is on timeout. Sidney Rigdon kept on going. So the Doctrine and Covenants is hilarious when you put section 10 with the right date of 1829, not 8. But that's why Bruce R. McConkie changed the date. Is because why in February is the Book of Mormon about to come forth among the children of men when Joseph hasn't even been lifted from time out to resume and redo the 116 pages? Exactly. Oops. So yeah, the AI article on the Dead Sea Scrolls, trying to figure out the date of when it is to occur. None of them are professional linguistic scientists like I am. Paleographers. And they got these paleographers who are basing their judgments on carbon dating or the other form, an AI that was being used. Oh dear God, you make this so complicated. Dead Sea Scrolls. What time period were that Qumran community? Right there in the Roman period time. What was the practices of the Romans? What was the practices prior to started by the Greeks? What were the practices prior to started by Babylon? What were the practices started by Egypt? So knowing when certain things began, having not existed prior to, now go back into the documents and check. So Genesis, let's start with that. When was Genesis written? Oh, way back in the beginning of time. Was it? Really? 7 days for creation, and on the 7th day, don't work on the 7th day, because that's a holy day. No work is to be performed on the 7th day. Now go back to your understanding of the Roman period creations, the Greek period creations, and the Babylonian period creations. Oh, there it is in the Babylonian period. They created a 7-day week calendar for the first time ever. And the 7th day was the day not to do any work, because that's the superstitious number for the Babylonians. Don't work on the Sabbath day. Ta-da! So we've now linguistically confirmed that Genesis was written after Babylon, not before. But wait, there's that Genesis chapter that nobody likes to go over about Tamar. And Bruce R. McConkie calls her a whore. So when did temple prostitution begin for women? Oh, the Greeks. So now the document of Genesis happened after the Greeks. But wait, there's more. Sodom and Gomorrah. The 3 messengers come to Lot to warn him of Armageddon, and the men of Sodom come a-knocking. We want to have him involved in our temple rituals. When did that begin for men to be prostituted? The Romans. And so, being in the Roman period, that's when the book of Genesis was written. Ta-da. It is not hard to analyze a document and figure out when it was created. And if carbon dating can't confirm that, or AI, NAI, can't regurgitate that, you're wrong. And if you know carbon dating and the other form that they were talking about in the article, you see where they botch it. They're not using the science correctly. So, real simple things to do's. Simple, simple, simple. So in the news, some things that I found interesting. Stanford sent me a Catholic news about how the Epstein files also confirms that Epstein stayed with the Pope, John Paul II. But in the bigger picture, yeah, it's the coming Armageddon. And so by meeting with the Pope as a leader of a church, you know, like the Mormon president, which Jasmine, by confirming 1989 rather than 2009 means that it was Benson rather than Monson, assuming that we interpret his typing errors correctly. So it may be Benson, it may be Monson, it doesn't really matter. It could even be Hinckley. And nevertheless, it's because of this Armageddon and the whole breeding program for the rich elites. That's why he goes to the Vatican, to let him know about it and the whole plans. Because these elites, as they call themselves, are all in on it. And that is why Trump, with Pam Bondi, let the church go. And I warned him of their plot to use Trump, to use Christians, to use the rich elite leaders of the world, to cause it for the church that they aren't even supposed to know. Because the founder of the Council for National Policy thinks it's for him and his religion, for his Jesus. And there is the Skousen representative of the church, secretly planted in. And that's why Oaks came out and said in 2020, we're doing a test run instead, rather than implementing it from the Book of Mormon, 3rd Nephi chapter 7. According to the dates, the 30th year, 4 years later is Revelation 19. The date for Revelation 19 is 8 April 2024, thus 2020. Now behold, I will show unto you that they did not establish a king, president, over the land. But in this same year, yea, the 30th year, they did destroy upon the judgment seat. SCOTUS. Yea, did murder Justice Roberts. Of the land. But they didn't. Ruth Bader Ginsburg died. They wanted to hang Mike Pence. But again, it was a test run. Trump was supposed to lose. And it may have been his first time running for president, not his second. Because there was an attempt to get Mitt Romney to be president in 2012. Thus, he would have run for a second term and most likely won in 2016, for which it would have been over for him for the 2020 election. And so, yep, the congressional hearings had the video footage of Mitt Romney running for his life as the loser and failure that he is. And I warned him too, in advance. Not just my government. But yeah, Oakes also failed. He was supposed to be in SCOTUS during all this. He wasn't supposed to be the head of the church, in the first presidency at least. He failed, and so they then set him up to be Lucifer, succeeding Nelson, who is Mars, by baby name meaning. The husband of Venus, who gave birth to Lucifer in the Roman theology that Isaiah from the Latin Vulgate is talking about. Found exactly in the Book of Mormon, on purpose. And so the people are divided. America, MAGA and Antifa, the false dichotomy, violating the United States Constitution. And they did separate one from another into tribes, states. Each state was to be designated as MAGA or Antifa. And they have their own laws, and they destroyed the federal government of the United States of America and the United States Constitution. The great American experiment to destroy and prevent the coming of the Christ, the Jewish Christ, the bloodline. And yet he showed in 2020, confronted Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said no. Creeping death came and slaughtered millions around the world. And he parted the waters. And they never believed he would show. Because no man can know of anything to happen in the future, especially the coming of a human. But a not real Jesus? Oh yeah, that's totally believable. Church is so true. All this was done because they did yield themselves unto the power of Lucifer. And the regulations of the federal government were destroyed because of the secret combination of the Friends, Confederates, and the Kindreds, Danites, of those who murdered Joseph Smith. All written before it happened, because William Morgan got the whole playbook, all graphically detailed and exposed in the Book of Mormon. They knew the dates of their operation. They knew the plans of their operation. That's why Trump 2.0, the second coming, instead of a national divorce, it's now gerrymandering. And things are getting repeated from 2020 and 2021. You know, like the murders in Minnesota. Everything except for we the people getting bribed to shut up. And so, since Trump was supposed to be running for the first time, but failing to get a government, you then have now this secret combination, which had brought so great iniquity upon the people, did gather themselves together and did place at their head a man whom they did call Jacob. This is what the Confederates did. They placed at their head their president. And that was just a test run for the Civil War. And so, yes, it does appear that whoever was to win the 2012 election was supposed to have his second term finished for the 2020 election. Mitt Romney. I guess they assumed that America would not choose a black man over a Mormon. Oops. That's part of the problem of keeping everything a secret, is that you get people who expose things and prevent things from happening according to plan. And thus they had to go to a backup, and thus the test run instead. Move everything up. And so here I go again. Here I go again. And so, America refuses to allow Trump to be president, if that were the scenario. And they chase him out. And he goes and becomes the king of Florida at Mar-a-Lago. But the government is destroyed. So Joseph Smith, in the scripture that Brigham Young was furious because Joseph Smith exposed him as the enemy, using Mark chapter 14 for the Last Supper. Joseph Smith further comments on verse 51 of his parable that he gave in section 101. The Constitution will be upon the brink of ruin, and it is to be Mormons, with the gathering to Zion, to restore New Jerusalem in America with the constitutional law of agency of life, liberty, and property, to gather humans from all around the world to the New Jerusalem. But his mission was only to start on the 23rd of September 2017 to Mormons. When you hear about our national anthem in the historical context of that fort, where the bombs bursted in air, but the flag was still there. So now plug in Joseph Smith Sr. and his sacrifice of his son. To give us the Book of Mormon, to warn us, to try to save America in the latter days, not just during his time. And for me to show, and just being me, I fulfilled in an attempt to save America yet again. And Mormons choose evil and claim they're saving America. Bunch of dumbasses. Because section 11, or 3rd Nephi 11, is Zion. We're supposed to be there in 2024. And they ran a test run instead. Bastards. So yeah, the church is now using it for their 2030. 4 years later, 2026. Armageddon is supposed to happen any day now. So 4 years later, Salt Lake City is supposed to be the Temple Bountiful, where everybody will then be gathered. And Jesus! The rebranding of the church. Introducing the church to the world again. With child sex slave polygamy. Some other stuff in the news. Obviously, the Mormons in the Utah Supreme Court ruled in favor of the church having the highest tower of the Hebrew temple. No duh. You cannot win a lawsuit against the church in Utah. You guys should all know that by now. And then they're doing a response video. BYU coach Kevin Young responds to anti-LDS chants at Oklahoma State. Is it anti, or are they truthers? Are they telling the truth? Because by saying anti, you're calling them liars. And they will never tell us what they chanted. It was probably something like Mormons are a cult. That's kind of true. It's a cult, technically. Joseph Smith talking to the dead, looking at a rock and a hat to get inspiration. That's occultish stuff for witchcraft and demonology. because they turned him literal history. And so then there's both historic and modern. The oldest art museum in the state is in Utah County. Utah County attorney says his daughter had no influence on his decision to seek the death penalty. None whatsoever. Okay. And so that's the new Mormon experiment we're doing here. And so, yeah, still after 5, they never came out with another new apostle. Pay attention today, because then we're going into week 5 for next week. And let's see, Trump hands the keys of government to the church at the National Prayer Breakfast. But we'll do the new American experiment instead. Snapshots, let's see. LDS MAGA bailed on Renee. Oh, yeah. MAGA in Congress. The Mormon boys, brothers of Renee Good, testified in Congress. None of the Mormons showed. They didn't want to hear the Mormon boys about their sensitive snowflake feelings, which pissed me off by the news. Oh, they're sharing their feelings and how they were hurt with the death of their sister. Really? That's what congressional hearings are all about now? Instead of presenting facts and documents, it's all about sharing your feelings? What the bleeping hell? And Bannon, who's in the council for Adam on Diamond to hand over the government to Oaks. And if he knew, he would be best. Which is hilarious. All we have to do is leak that the church is going to get you guys to do it. And it's over. And Trump pulled down the Epstein documents after I told him. You bastard! Bannon wants ICE at the balloting stations, the polling booths for the election. So yeah, they are planning to go to the election for the referendum or the midterms. Bastards! Stop extending this! But so much more important to save people's lives, to get to Zion immediately. And so, like they did in 2020, or 2016, which is 2017, 2-year-old girl detained by ICE, locked in a cage, separated from her parents. A 2-year-old girl, a terrorist, bleepers. This should technically be a separate video, because this is hilarious. And I still will do it a separate video. Because it's hilarious. Lehigh Police Department arrest all 14 living prophets of Jesus as pedophiles. The Lehigh police rounded up a pedophile ring down in Lehigh. Perfect timing with the Epstein exposure of the church. So that's a separate video. And it'll be a quickie. Mormons in Utah are losing at Frogger more than ever this year. And we're only in February, so January's report already shows a high list of Mormon Utahns who are failing to win at Frogger. It was the old, I think it was Atari, the game. You're a frog and you have to get across the street. Oops, you're dead. Exactly. So, that's Jasmine. But yeah, she has no clue about the cold fusion with the nuclear war for Armageddon. That's what she did not get. In a church talking about nukes for Armageddon in the 50s, 60s, 70s by Bruce. And so that's why Epstein was coordinating child sex trafficking for the elites. Because they're all in on nuking the world. And so they were checking out in cold fusion, which is hypothetical. It's not real. But they were checking it out to see if they could do it that way rather than hot fusion for nuclear bombs. That's why he was interested in that Congress. That's why the other guy responds with the cold fusion, because he knew what that was about. And so, Poland and the UK have access to the unredacted Epstein files. And both nations are going through them to see who their girls were. And to see who was responsible for the kidnapping and rape of their girls. And we're not doing it in Utah. We're not doing it in America. Obviously not, because Americans in Utah, Mormons, are responsible. But yeah, the lawyer for the survivors, the victims, needs to come out with the unredacted to show the girls' names with the ones who raped them. They're already stepping forward saying, we're victims. We want the Epstein files released. We want accountability. So do it. Don't cover it up and hide them. They're already coming out. They need to be believed by showing the documents. So the UK, for example, the photo of Prince Andrew with the little girl. Oh, is that a fake? Is that photoshopped? Nope, it's real. Poland and the UK are taking this seriously to protect their people. America is not. Any missing girls in Utah, now that we know that Mormon girls were involved? Check the files. See Benet Ramsey? She's in the files. And that got pulled because the Mormon blood was in there. That was a major cold case for decades. And there was the name appearing in the Epstein files. And the government is covering it up and ignoring it. Is she still alive? Who's using her to breed the human race after Armageddon? And that makes it even more cringy with this church grooming girls in this church to prepare them for polygamy. And Oaks coming out and condemning women for not breeding, not getting married early enough to have more kids, because that's what it's all about. And so there are parents who are blaming Trump for blocking Nigeria so that they can't get their adopted child. Are you sure your child wasn't kidnapped and trafficked to you? Have you not been paying attention to the news? Are you sure you didn't pay child traffickers to get them? And here you are blaming Trump? Dear God. Are you sure it was legitimate? Are you sure the child is real? And not from Brooklyn? Or an AI? You're making assumptions without receiving the product you ordered. Dear God. So January was the worst layoff since 2009. I called it then too. And that's when the curse of Emmanuel began and the transfer of authority spiritually through vision occurred. There is no compensation that can fully restore the damage this church has done to me. And all I'm asking is for the transfer physically to take place to save mankind who choose to come. Worst layoffs. Greece went bankrupt, had to be bailed out. So, Canada is pre-warning of an attack by America on Cuba. Giving a travel advisory to stay away. Stay away from Cuba, Canada. They got insider information. Cuba. Ba-da-da-da, Cuba. So, yeah. Mendelssohn and Prince Andrew. Dear God. And Bill Gates lies. Island girl. I think he's in the Epstein files too. Which is strange because he's gay. Epstein little black book. Island girls. I don't think it's. I think it just is. I can't remember now. But we'll check. Because boys don't give birth to babies. They're not needed. And so I should do this as a separate video or just a separate sideline thing. But if you've followed me, you know I'm paying attention to certain anchors here in Utah, or weather girls here in Utah, talking about fashion. So ABC4 News Utah, Lindsay and Sarah going at it in a contest of fashion. And poor Lindsay, she's the married woman. Sarah is not. And Lindsay was in the hot pink and covering a subliminal Freudian, because she was very uncomfortable in the dress they made her wear. But she's the winner. Sorry, Sarah. I told you, don't do the dress pants. Island girl. Yeah, no, he's not in the little black book list. So if he was, I mean, we can check. We're done. I'm trying to think of where I remembered him being in the news. I mean, yeah, he was in Spinal Tap Pie. That was awesome. And then the guy went and died with his wife, murdered by their son. That was tragic. His last great hit before he was murdered. Island Girls. It's 1 o'clock. Dear God. That's the end of the day. Here is this video. And I need bathe and shave today. Need. An emergency need. Come on, Google. See, again, if they just used the straight computer programming originally put in computers, none of this would happen. It is because of this fraud that all of these problems are happening. And they're doing it on purpose, because right before an attack, you cut off communications. Thus, not complicated. God, it's frozen. What the hell? This is all part of it. Only the rich people can afford a device that's Windows 11 compatible. All grooming, prepping us for the coming destruction. Island goes. Because if he is in the Epstein files, oh dear God, that song. Singer says articles about his health and birth of son outside even the most basic standards of human decency. From The Guardian 2 hours ago. British celebrities named in Epstein files include David Furnish and Sir Elton John, profoundly affected by apparently there's a breach of privacy. London's High Court had been bugged. So this is a different article, not the Epstein files. Elton John's husband accusing the Daily Mail of homophobia. So Facebook also has a list of Epstein files, but they're not indicating if Elton John was one of them. So let's try Reddit, see what they're talking about here. see if they'll give us a file number. I am still recording, right? Because I'm assuming they're assuming that, well, I've been left alone. I've been getting more views than normal every hour, not the hours where the 0 views as punishment. Okay. Adele, Mick Jagger, Elton John. Oh, crap. Yeah. So this means that Elton John was a client rather than a trafficker, along with Adele, Mick Jagger, and many more. That's what that means. So yeah, Island Girls. Very sad, because that's what he means. But he's gay. Why would he talking about Island Girls if he's gay? Because he's not. There's no such thing. But again, choosing the elite to breed the humans after Armageddon. That's why Adele is considered elite. And wanting to get pregnant by a little kid? Seriously, Adele? You can't get a normal, full-grown adult to breed you? I'm having trouble believing that one. Dear God, yeah, we gotta do Island Girls. Island Girls. Crap. American Experiment from New Jerusalem. We're done. And that hopefully is not what's gonna happen. The Book of Mormon warns of it. Book of Mormon warns. Dear God, help us all.